Hello, I'm PS3 and welcome back to the video. Does this view look familiar? Because it probably should. It's the starting view from the map Cavern, the first glide minigame map to release, and today I have a downloaded / creative copy of the world, which I can't necessarily say how I got, but I can show you around it, and I can talk about a lot of the questions which I have, in my head when I'm playing glide minigame, because there's a bunch of just, little weird stuff that you see as you're flying through the map that you can never really investigate because you aren't a leecher, but that I personally want to know a bunch about, and also we can answer questions that you can't normally see, like, oh, I wonder how high up you are, which we can see because we've got a map, or I wonder, exactly how they made these maps, or what the, building designs are. I can answer all of those questions and even raise more curiosities because there is a prototype for the old version of Cavern and a whole bunch more, things like that in today's video. Hopefully you all do enjoy it. So like it if you do like it because it helps out the channel a lot, and let us know you do like seeing these outside the minigame map videos. But with that said, let's get straight into it, shall we? And let's clarify one more time before we start, this isn't something you can normally do with the regular minigame map. This is because I have a copy of it, which I've then, got the stuff with. But you can tell this is a genuine copy and not like someone built it, because who would go through this much effort just for one YouTube video? And also it's been 2 days, so like even if you did want to replicate everything, it'd be impossible to do this much in that time frame. But yeah, here you can see it is the genuine map because we fly along here into the cavern and so on and so forth. It's a full-on replica. And the first thing that I was really curious about is exactly what the layout looks like and also how low down you actually go. Because a lot of people are curious as to like, oh, did they have to raise the height limit or something? That's something I actually raised in my head. But no, the map starts at Y223 and it actually ends all the way down at like Y60 or something like that, because it ends very, very close to where it starts, just over here if I'm not mistaken. Maybe over here in the ground. Yeah, it ends just over here, very, very close to where it starts, and it ends at Y=25. So there's about 200 blocks of, I guess, height difference there, which means that they could make longer maps if they wanted to, and also because they could use the, the jets, they can make even longer maps than that. But in case you're curious, like, is this the biggest map they can create? No, it looks like they could create even bigger stuff. And let me tell you, by the way, this is a ridiculously sized map. Like, to load this on the 360, which is what I've done right now, it really does create lag when you try to put too much of there at once, because there's so many, these giant loaded chunks of memory at once, and it kind of shows not only the kind of age of the 360, but also the impressiveness of the design of this map. Again, most battle maps, they have lots of stuff going on, but you don't get to play most of it, but this truly is just like chunk after chunk of gargantuan stuff, and it just goes to show there is a lot of work that goes into one of these glide maps that's, both inspiring if you want to make your own and just do it the easier way, but also it kind of shows that, I guess, well, there is, there's a reason they released one and they're releasing the next in like a month or two or something like that, and that's because they are these giant kind of things. So yeah, now you know that. The second question you might have to answer is like, oh yeah, so what about all the, what about the cavern section of the map? Because there were some doors back there. There's also a few like weird references to the cavern map, and the cool thing about this to me is the fact that they literally did copy paste Cavern in, or they built around Cavern. We can't be too sure which one it is, and they actually seem to do a really bad job on it. So the map itself, they must have fixed up as they did it, but if you look at the trees that they copy pasted in and the village they copy pasted in, for some reason it has these just giant issues, like, so this jungle tree is chopped off right there, these ones are just missing leaves, and the village is just so horribly corrupted. This one's missing most of its blocks. Again, you can't normally see this, so I guess they didn't, want to fix it, but it just goes to show that the secret, dev tools that 4J have access to sometimes seem to have pretty bad bugs too, because it leads to stuff like this, which is more than a little bit confusing if you ask me. Also, someone trod on some dirt at some point and didn't own up to it, so now that's a part of the map too. So yeah, as you can see, this is the full map Cavern from outside of it, but it exists inside, the brand new minigame, Glide, which I think is just a cool little reference. So let's also go inside it and let's show you the doors and the, the parts of the map that you can't normally fly to, such as over here. And as you can see, they literally did take it, bit for bit from, Cavern. This is a literal replica, but they did change a few things here and there to make it a more friendly map to look at and to make you less want to glide there. So a few of those examples, if you look over here, for instance, they removed the walkway because, it just kind of tempts you a little bit too much, and they also kind of made the openings to the doorway just less enticing and visible, which I think makes a lot of sense. Like, you want to focus people on the pathway. That's why there's these giant, fire rings instead, because look, it's a circle, you do a 180, make sure you do that instead. So I guess that makes sense. And also, you can see they removed the centerpieces, so, obviously no one's meant to even be down here. But if you did go down here, you could, in theory, fly across this, whereas if there was the giant border in the middle, like there is right now, you would not be able to. So there you go, that's the Cavern minigame, as we can see. It's the same as the, the battle map in a lot of ways, but it does have a lot of very subtle variations that you might spot as we go along. So yeah, just it's a copy-paste, but it is a change copy-paste, and that's why it's so different, but so familiar at the same time. The next thing you might want to be curious about, because you're like, okay, so the maps all kind of close together, and we see see the rough layout of what's going on here is, exactly where else can we escape the map and do stuff with. So, yeah, there's no way to escape the map as far as I can tell, no matter how good you are with the game, because they're really, really good at boxing stuff in, and there might even be borders. But if you did want to do it, the easiest places to do so, again, within the game itself, would probably be the second section. So just after you finish doing this weird thing over here with all the stuff going on, the best way to do that would probably be just over here, because you can see you go through a glide, you go into the sky, and then you go so close to being able to get out the map. Again, like, all you have to do is, like, so usually you can get through this hole. Instead of going through this hole, somehow, like, take a left turn and try and fly up through these trees, and then you could, in theory, be out of the map. The map might stop you, but again, if you want to try to get out of the map as hard as you can, because I'd love to see that, this is the best place to do so. And then the next question you might have is like, okay, so you can get out of the map. We can see they've got some weird copy-paste tools. We can see the copy-paste tools did a weird job, so that's kind of interesting. But the next thing you might want to ask, besides, like, what's with all the holes in the wall, is probably, the question of the doors, which are found somewhere near the end of the map. So this is actually near the cavern section, so let's just go back into here, actually, because there is actually some doors which look, they just look a little bit suspicious, and you can see them in the game normally, so I figured, why not go through and answer them? And unfortunately, I wasn't expecting too much, but it was a little disappointing regardless, because I was like, oh, what's going on there? Because as you can see, just over here, there are some doors. Is it over here? Wait, let's drink. Yeah, it's just in the background there. You can see some doors. You might have spotted it if you played the map, and you've got a cute eye, and you might be like, what's behind the doors, Toycat? But the answer is, there's nothing behind the doors. There's this weird, like, cave thing that might be something, but it's nothing, basically. The doors are just there because they look kind of fancy. And also you might be curious, like, oh, do any of these buildings contain anything? I looked around most of them. It is mostly just like surface deep. They don't want to like entice players in, so they deliberately didn't seem to make it too in depth. Even like stuff like the doorways here that look like they might go somewhere. Nope, they just kind of go to the very edge like this. So yeah, in case you ever have been curious about that, there are little doorways you could hide in if this was a hide and seek map, but it doesn't work because it's a glide map instead. So the next couple of questions are to do with the building of the map, at least for me personally. And one of the things I said at the very beginning was about the the prototype version of the map. And this is something I find fascinating all the time because the way they build maps is something you can kind of see. Again, when you look outside the map with stuff like, oh yeah, well, I guess they place these blocks here and then they place big things on top of them. And it looks like at the very start they were going to be building the map looking something like this. So you can see this was like the rough skies of one of the things they start building, and it looks like they just kept on expanding and expanding and expanding from there, because you can see how everything kind of looks tacked on in that way. I mean, in the map itself it feels natural, but when you look at the stuff looking like this, it is just lots of giant kind of set pieces. They kind of link together, and I think it's really cool that they can just work on like 6 different pieces separately and then combine them together in a way that feels natural on the inside, but from the outside it just seems so unnatural and like unwieldy. Like it's just lots of giant blocks combined together, and that's just a cool little thing you might not have known. But yeah, like I said something about the prototype, and I'm sure you're all curious about that more than anything else. So let's show you the prototype of Cavern. So I was actually curious what this was because when I looked on the map, I saw a giant stone block, and the people who sent me the map hadn't commented on it, so I decided to go ahead and look at it, and they had some holes in the ceiling. So I was like, oh, I guess those are holes for letting light in. And then I realized this is actually a clearly some form of prototype for the Cavern map, and the reason you can tell that is because it's kind of like to test certain things. Maybe they wanted to test the physics of the Elytra to like, see how well they can master it, because you can see it's a really basic way in and out. There's 2 ways in, here and here, and then there's 1 way out over here, or I guess it's 2 ways out. But the whole idea, I assume, was to test the physics of like water and this and that and lighting and stuff, because, it's just a stone block. There's no decoration going on. It's purely just for them to like see how, it's clearly just for gameplay purposes, or like, I don't know, testing the, how big they can make holes. And it's actually kind of interesting if you ask me, because it's just, it looks very similar to certain sections of the map, but it kind of exists right there, just chilling off to the side, and it is something that loads into your game whenever you play the map. So yeah, that's a cool little thing you might not have known. There is a prototype version of the map. I'm sure there was many more, but there's one that exists within the thing itself, and that's a little bit cool if you ask me. And also you can see down here, there's it's just stone underneath. Like they took a giant stone cube that they clearly made themselves, and then they just carved out some holes to make some caves, which is how they did that. The other thing that I found fascinating about the kind of terrain of this map is the fact that they actually have 2 villages on this. So they generated a super flat, like a normal one, as far as I can tell, but with it's a normal super flat, but then they generated it with some weird, it's not with the Minecraft console itself, because it has these villages with 2 blacksmith chests. So you cannot get these naturally. I think you can toggle them on the PC, which makes me think they either made this map on the PC, or the custom super flat tools that 4J have are more powerful than the ones we have. We know that's kind of true, but we can see it's true here because there's 2 blacksmiths in 1 village, and this village in general is actually pretty big. So if you're curious, like, oh yeah, they should release that because they have it, I think if we go to the other village, we can see that there is some issues, because in the same way that the battle sorry, the old minigame lobby had issues with its villages. This one is not immune from that either, because if we go to the second village, which is found just over here, you'll see how some of the some of the crops in the village actually kind of glitch out towards the edge here. So yeah, just over here, it glitches out for no good reason. It's not the edge of the map. It's just, oh yeah, we decided to stop generating village. No idea why, but maybe that's why they can't show this publicly. But it's just an interesting thing that, you know, Forger have lots of bizarre tools they use for internal map development, as well, you know, as well as the fact that you can clearly tell they do some of this in console. They do a lot of it on the PC, clearly, or on a development version of Minecraft we don't have access to, and it makes me curious as to why they wouldn't release that. And, you know, some of it's to do with, like, oh yeah, well, it's glitchy, clearly. But then you wonder why people can't use it. But that's just a little thought I had, and maybe that develops into something, or maybe that is just, oh yeah, we use the PC and that's why. But it's something I figured you might be curious about. So the last kind of few things as I fly through the map here that you might be curious about is like, oh, it's like, let's show you what it looks like when you just go through normally. Because when you don't have the it was really, I did a run through of the map when I first, you know, downloaded it, just kind of like see the whole thing, and I found it fascinating to kind of see what it looks like without the fires and without the, you know, the fire things and the big giant circles, because it just seems a lot less full of life. Like, it's a very tiny change, but the map just feels so much less exciting. Also, there's no boost, so you're not going so fast. It just feels way less, you know, like fast and exciting, etc. And that's just a tiny change you might you see as we go along. Also, you can see the 360 really struggles with loading the map in as we're trying to do this right now. So just an interesting little thing right there you might notice. So yeah, just again, we go through these caves and everything just seems so much less full of life and stuff going on. Like, oh yeah, look how exciting all of this stuff is. A few things really just seem like way less finished in general. Like, again, it's such a tiny touch, but adding those rings and adding the you know, like the points to you know, respawn at, I really feel like they did change the game in or change the feel of the maps in a pretty significant way right there. So you can also see over here. Oh. Yeah, this is you know, the cool section of the map where everything breaks up into different bits. There's no secrets, you know, like shortcuts that we're all just missing. I did look into that just because I was curious. Then we fly up through here into the caves, and you can see this bit right here, even more depressing, because like so much of what makes the map exciting is the atmosphere it generates. Like, oh, there's a dark tunnel over there, but nope, it's an entirely light tunnel. Then we fly around here. We fly up onto the boosts or whatever we're doing right here, and we fly into the cave, into the last little segment over here, and into Cavern. So yeah, this giant kind of hallway clearly is designed just to push you along. It's a pretty interesting way it's done, but you can tell it's like a thing to join two segments of the map, and it's something you don't really appreciate till you see it like this. Go through another one of these speedy boost things, or whatever's going on there, and then finally we've got the last segment of the map, which I think, honestly, this is the part that seems the most depressing without the thing, because I know, just when you cross the finish line, you expect something cool to happen. But yeah, that is the full, you know, Cavern map, kind of outside the map stuff. There was the prototype. There was some weird stuff. Here is the height of this thing down here, in case you're curious about that again. You're like, oh, what height is it? Y25, as it turns out. And I hope you did all enjoy today's video in general. Like if you did like it, because it helps out the channel a lot. Let us know you do like these sorts of videos. Share if you really liked it, and subscribe if you're new around here, because I make videos like this one every single day on my channel, and if subscribed, you'll see them daily on your homepage. Thank you all very much for watching. By the way, just a little secret that you wouldn't ever want to use, but if you fly up here, they apparently made a little hole over here, so you can fly back down to the map. Isn't that lovely? So, yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.